So make of it what you will. We're going to talk about it all, especially over this weekend. Some interesting news came out from Shawn Porter, even though I knew it and we talked about it several months ago. But the question is, why isn't Shawn Porter ranked by the IBF? And why can't Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence happen? I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Please subscribe. We're going to watch about, this video may end up being 20 minutes. It may not, but I'm going to make sure you get as much information out of this video as possible so you can make your own decisions on what's going on. Let's watch this first.
You need a soft touch, being as though this is the first fight after the injury?
You know, I work hard. You know, I do everything that it takes to be ready for a fight. The last fight we had with, which one was it? I think it was Adrian Granados. We were coming off of the fight with Andre Berto, and my dad said, this fight, we're not going to spar you every day, every other day. He said, we'll spar maybe once a week, maybe twice, but we're going to have fights. We're not going to spar, we're going to have fights. So we treated our sparring as if it was a fight. And sometimes that's what it takes. My dad always knows what it takes. So coming into the next fight, whether it's Keith Thurman or somebody else, I'm sure we'll handle it accordingly. We'll handle the training accordingly, and we'll know what we're ready for, and we'll be ready for it.
What about the winner of this fight? Is that an option?
Right now, it's not. It's not an option because it's the IBF. I'm not sure.
Now listen to this. Now this is pretty much the meat of the video. Pause. This is what we're going to talk about. Is what he's about to say here.
I'm not sure if I'm ranked in it. I've been told I'm not. I don't know if it's IBF. I'm not sure if I'm ranked in it. I've been told I'm not. I don't know for sure because I don't look at the rankings, but I'm actually being told that I'm not ranked in the IBF. I don't know for sure, which is crazy. I need to be ranked everywhere, you know, but it is what it is. So right now, this is not going to be my next fight. Like I said, it's Keith Thurman, and we'll look somewhere else.
Perfect scenario for your 2018. I mean, obviously Keith's gonna be fighting in April, so
I know. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll come back. I don't know because he's fighting in April. Him fighting in April means he's not gonna want to fight again until the end of the summer. So we'll see.
So basically, now if you don't know, now this is just one video of the various different interviews that Shawn Porter and Kenny Porter did over the weekend. And their stance is that they will not fight until they get Keith Thurman. They are upset that Keith Thurman is taking the Jesse Vargas fight. He even confirmed Shawn Porter in saying like, yeah, you know, from my understanding, it's done, you know, for April. So if Keith Thurman were to fight in April, that means if Shawn Porter were to get his shot and Keith Thurman does beat Jesse Vargas, then it wouldn't take place until August or, you know, likely September or something around that. Therefore, Shawn Porter will be on this long layoff, what, about a year, right? Or something like that when he fought Adrian Granados. In fact, let's go look at it. So now people are pulling out their torches or bringing their torches and their pitchforks from Keith Thurman for not fighting Errol Spence, and then they're looking like, wait a minute. So Keith Thurman, we already know he's fighting Jesse Vargas shit, but you, why are you fighting Errol Spence? You know. So right now, when did he fight Adrian Granados? That was in November. I was at that fight, duh. You know, that was in November. But if he were to wait until, you know, August or September, you know, then he's going to be on a layoff. And in that meantime, more questions are going to come up of why you're not fighting Errol Spence. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't know, he is not ranked by the IBF. But the issue is, let me see, right here. The issue is, or the question is, why isn't he ranked by the IBF? Is it the IBF decision not to rank him? Or is it his decision not to be ranked by the IBF? You know, and why wouldn't you want to be ranked by the IBF? Let's go look at it. Now, these rankings are not up to date. This is something I got to make sure I get to tomorrow. But for the most part, this is what they look like. They don't change too much from month to month. They don't change too much. So these should be up to date as far as, for the most part. So let's go look at it. Obviously, Keith Thurman, WBC, WBA. Errol Spence, the IBF. Jeff Horn is the WBO. Shawn Porter is the mandatory right now for Keith Thurman at the WBC. The WBC made him the mandatory for beating Adrian Granados. So he gets a shot at that WBC title, mandatory, the winner of Thurman, Thurman Garcia. Now, here's the thing about that. When you're a champion, a unified champion, Keith Thurman can decide to not fight his mandatory and go to and go for a unification, because a unification trumps a mandatory. You see what I'm saying? So Keith Thurman has the choice to pick either Shawn Porter as the mandatory, or he can fight Errol Spence or the winner of Terrence Crawford, Jeff Horn, which is supposed to take place in April. You see what I'm saying? Danny Garcia is rumored. Even Angel Garcia said, the trainer and the father of Danny Garcia said that that there was a rematch clause. But then Keith Thurman had surgery. So what if Keith Thurman leapfrogs Shawn Porter, which would require Shawn Porter to be financially compensated and to agree? Or, you know, it's complex. But the way it's looking to me is that Keith Thurman is not going to fight Errol Spence, and Shawn Porter knows likely that maybe Keith Thurman would pick him and not Danny Garcia, and whatever the case may be. And Shawn Porter doesn't want to risk that. But in the meantime, many people are asking the question is, why is he not ranked by the IBF or even the WBA, you know, or the WBO? He's only ranked by the WBC. So many times I've read press releases from the sanctioning bodies, because, you know, you get newsletters in your emails about, newsletters from the WBC, from the WBA, and they let you know like the different rankings every month and who's notified who. That's how you know that. That's how I knew that Demetrius Andrade was moving to 160, because the WBA released a newsletter that said that he had notified them, you know, to rank him at 160 for the WBA. So my question is, do the fighters contact the sanctioning bodies and say, you know, okay, I'm at this weight, or can you rank me, or why am I not ranked? Or is it or do the sanctioning bodies, in the case, I know the WBO is kind of shady in that sense, but Al Heyman and his fighters are very close with the IBF. So the question is, like, whose side is it on that Shawn Porter is not ranked? Is it his team saying, nah, we don't want to, you know, be ranked? Because the IBF would be like, well, fuck it then, you know, Shawn Porter ranked too, you know, we'll make him the Errol Spence mandatory. So you got to think in your head how the promoters and the managers and the fighters are thinking ahead. You know, maybe they already knew, well, shit, if you get ranked by the IBF, then they're gonna make you fight Errol Spence. You know, that's how they do. That's how these sanctioning bodies do. If a big name come up into their rankings, and as you can see, the IBF don't have any, you know. You see what I'm saying? So that's the question I'm asking, you know? That's the question. I did have some more video content to play for you. What was it? Oh, yeah. Keith Thurman's injury timeline seems to suggest that he can't, you know, have 3 fights in 2018 like he wants. And also people are saying basically that he's lying. Now, this interview was October the 14th. In October the 14th of 2017 in the Laura Goucher fight. Right now it's 12:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, January 22nd, 2018. So watch this and I'll be right back.
Let's talk about your injury. Now, the injury you had with your elbow, does that stem back from when you had that car accident?
No.
Was it something that was reactivated?
No. It was a brand new thing. I never felt that pain in my elbow ever throughout any of my boxing matches or through any other training camp. But I did start to feel it in the training camp for Danny Garcia. I got an MRI, and the results showed that I had loose bodies floating around down in the joint region, which is hindering my elbow from blocking out and doing its job, which is promoting a whole lot of inflammation. So I was fighting inflammation, which people know is a fancy word for somewhat pain, you know. So I was fighting mild pain and inflammation in the elbow. I was icing it every day after practice, and I took some notes from my doctors. I stopped sparring a little short in that camp, and just waited it out. Did a lot of shadow boxing, did a lot of strength and conditioning, and I said, look, the doctor said I'll be okay for the fight, so I'm gonna get strong, get ready, but I'm gonna cut my sparring short, and I'm just gonna use this right elbow on the night that matters the most, which is the night of the fight. Afterwards, I rested. I spent 1 month in Japan, upon which I proposed to my wife. I came back. Came to the Shawn Porter fight in April. I think my surgery was done like 2 days before that fight, and here in New York. So like I said, I'm back here in New York. I touched down. I seen my doctors. I'm getting therapy. We're feeling good. It feels like it's about to bounce back. We do need a minimum of 4 to 6, no longer than 8 weeks of rehab. I think 4 to 6 is a good number, because we really are bouncing back. It's feeling better than it ever did prior to last month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. The elbow really is progressing, so that's what we want to see. With rehab, that's what you want to see as an athlete. So I look forward to being back in the ring next year.
Does it not make sense? So, to summarize it, he's saying that he got injured. He had surgery around April or so. That was the Porterberto. This interview was on the 14th of October. He said he was there to see his doctor and then work on a rehab plan, which would take 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. He said he wanted to take about 4 to 6 weeks or so. Think about it. So 1 month from October to November, another month from November to December. Right now we're in January. We don't know when he started rehab, so therefore you would have to think he's going to have an 8-week traditional camp, has to have a good camp, for his comeback. That's another 8 weeks right there. So the timeline for him to fight in April is there. And also, it seems as though Errol Spence, I'm not going to say it seems as though Errol Spence hasn't addressed the fact that, I know he's injured, I know he's injured, but, I want to fight him next. And as I said, the way the politics are, Keith Thurman can't duck nobody. He's got to come back to a whole bunch of shit. He's got to come back, to fight, obviously, Jesse Vargas. That's the name that they're saying that's confirmed, or at least Shawn Porter saying that's confirmed. Then he's got to come back to either choose, a rematch with Shawn Porter. He's got to be on his A game, because Shawn Porter been waiting for him. Either a rematch with Danny Garcia or the winner of Brandon Rios. He can choose Errol Spence, or he can go Jeff Horn, winner, Terrence Crawford winner. That is it. Then the WBA is going to try to squeeze a mandatory in there somewhere, no telling God knows who. Then he's going to have to fight Spence or Danny Garcia or one of those guys, whoever he didn't choose the first time about, or meaning so after the fight he chooses if he beats Jesse Vargas. So I don't think people are understanding that. Yeah, I know it's the politics and people want the different stories to print and the videos to do and everything, but literally that's what's going on. So he's injured, and he's coming back. And when he comes back, it ain't no easy fights for him. Those days are over. But these guys, as you can see, these guys are hungry. And Errol Spence, I see what he's doing, because he wants to be chosen over Shawn Porter. And Shawn Porter is like, listen, I'm not going to come back until it's Keith Thurman. He's dealing with somewhat of an injury, even though he can be back before that. But also, if Shawn Porter was to take another fight, then what are people going to say? Well, why didn't he fight Errol Spence? Errol Spence got a belt, and it's already bad enough that now everywhere he goes, the cat's out of the bag. The people, all the attention is on him now. People are going to be asking him, so why not Errol Spence? Why not Errol Spence? The cat's out of the bag. And even me, I wasn't even really thinking about it like a couple of weeks ago, and then it was this that Errol Spence said, pay attention to this though. Pay attention to this.
A lot of guys, Al's and called these guys saying they're not, they reporters mention my name, they try to make an excuse, this and that. Okay, I have a belt now. I went over there and got the belt. So what's the excuse now? And I'm still calling. I have a belt, and I'm still calling these dudes out. Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, all these guys. He won't be sitting here if Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia or Shawn Porter said they'll take the fight. You know, I shouldn't be a world champion having to call these dudes out. And Lamont Peterson answered the call like a real fighter and like a real soldier should do.
So what do you see in 2018 for you? In a perfect world, what do you see for Errol Spence in 2018?
Well, in the perfect world, I'll be unifying with Keith Thurman or something like that. Or, well, I want to fight 3 times a year. I'm going to stay active. I'm not going to wait on, I'm not going to wait on anybody or, something you don't get back is time. You don't get time back. So I'm not going to wait around and be waiting on fighters to get ready and, they need to have tune-up fights or they want to fight me in 2020 and things like that. I'm not going to wait at all.
I think it's going to be Luis Collazo, Errol Spence's next fight for some reason. I mean, through the process of elimination, and it's going to be the homecoming fight. But he's going to have a tough time getting fights in the 147-pound division. It's supposed to be the biggest division in boxing. But when you have Danny Garcia, who likes to take a tough fight, then tune-up fight, tough fight, then tune-up fight, it's hard for me to think that he'll fight Errol Spence. People are going to be asking him now. His media workout's coming up like in a couple of weeks. I'm going to see him in Philly. So people are going to be, they're going to be harassing these 147-pound fighters. Then Terrence Crawford and Jeff Horn are going to be like, what's up with Errol Spence? Errol Spence. And it's crazy, even though he's not the money guy in a 147-pound division, Errol Spence is the uncrowned, unofficial king, or he's treated as if he's the king. In my opinion, Keith Thurman is still number 1. I think Keith Thurman beats Errol Spence. That's my personal opinion. But those body shots, though, we've seen that, Keith may have some issues down there. And Keith has been one of those fighters that if you go back and watch some interviews, and I was blessed to be at one of them, where he talked about, truth be told, it's not going to really bother him if he loses, but he don't see himself losing, And he seems to be very educated or mentally aware, like what to do if he gets hurt, and that, he don't mind taking a knee and taking a whole, 8 count before he gets up, all that type of, mental shit. That mental Jedi boxing shit. So he has a very high ring IQ. He always has that. But Errol Spence is huge and he's good. And then he started turning into the Matrix in there on Lamont Peterson. So guys like Shawn Porter are like, even though if I fight Errol Spence, it'd be a big super fight. It wouldn't be a super fight. That's the thing. But when you get Keith Thurman versus Shawn Porter 2, if they do it on CBS again, or Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia 2 on CBS again, and Keith Thurman understands the business. He's probably looking at Errol Spence the same way. It's like, okay, all right, you did those 12,000 tickets in Brooklyn. We saw you on ESPN this week. And Keith Thurman doesn't really do too much anything involved in boxing outside of boxing. He's not on social media or anything like that. So Errol Spence is building up his resume, but in reality, the Shawn Porter fight and the Danny Garcia rematch is a bigger fight for him. And then, of course, you have Terrence Crawford looming. People don't know how he's going to look against Jeff Horn. People are starting to back off a little bit, saying, okay, all right, we know you should destroy Jeff Horn, but Jeff Horn got some heart. Any type of guy that drops 15 pounds during fight week, get in there and still, he got some heart. So only time will tell. So, of course, I think that, Terrence Crawford would destroy Jeff Horn. But at the same time, everybody's got a shot. And this is a big division. And Terrence Crawford was bullying smaller fighters and having some issues getting his chin touched. Getting your chin touched by Errol Spence or a Lamont Peterson or Errol Spence or a Keith Thurman or Shawn Porter or even a Danny Garcia, you're going to have some issues. So, I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. All the links to my social media right down below. Shout out to Mo Jones, who provided this beautiful content this week at in New York. Shout out to Showtime too for getting off my back. Let me do my job. Please subscribe. All the links to my social media, as you can see, has been popping up. TstreeT Controversy, TstreeT Controversy Live.